Deborah, if you would like to come up, and Mark, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance first?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Senator McConkey. So the first order of business is reopening the public hearing on Senate Bill 471 and recognize the prime sponsor.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Lang. Thank you, honorable committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you today. And I'll pass you my testimony. Thank you. So for the record, my name is Deborah Altschuler. I represent State Senate District 24, which includes the towns of Exeter, Greenland, Hampton, Hampton Falls, Northampton, Rye, and Stratham on the seacoast. Senate Bill 471 is an enabling legislation that gives municipalities a tool to address affordable housing shortages themselves in their cities and towns. Last night, I attended the Exeter Select Board meeting where a team from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs Housing Champions program came to celebrate the awarding of a Housing Champions grant. Recipients are known as the Communities of the Willing. And the BAE identifies projects that will increase all kinds of housing stock, and the towns go through very rigorous application processes to show the state how much time, effort, and resources the municipality will invest, and the state chooses viable programs to help with grants. It's seriously a win-win. This program is a great incentive program that unfortunately has been completely defunded, but the housing crisis remains. So now municipalities have to find alternative ways to meet their needs. SB 471 can help. I will not assert that it will solve the housing crisis because it alone won't, but it will help those municipalities who choose it to address their needs in this very small way. Small measures are important to take too. And I cut and pasted so you can just move past that. So if our state, as we passed our last budget, isn't going to lean into housing investments, we need to let the cities and towns and our municipalities do a bit for themselves. So as you heard in testimony last week, this was a request from the New Hampshire Municipal Association, with whom I worked very, very closely last year, alongside the 7 cities and the 7 towns in my district on supporting the best legislation to help meet our housing needs through the budget year. I did listen to the hearing in from last week, the testimony, and heard repeatedly from the opposition that they appreciated what SB 471 was trying to do, but thought it might need amending, or that it would yield potentially such small amounts of money that it would essentially be ineffective. And I heard a lot of acknowledgement of the presence of a crisis, which has been brought to us by a number of factors, not just one. And then I heard about how Senate Bill 471 would be too small to help, or that some business leaders were horrified that they would have to pass on costs to the consumer. And I want to clarify that the fee is not mandated to be paid by the buyer. That is just one way to look at this transaction. As you heard from Mr. Deshays in the Municipal Association, and I hear frequently from my towns, this legislature did not create any meaningful increase in housing program investments from last year, but our problem remains. So please consider giving Senate Bill 471 an ought to pass recommendation so we can enable the towns that want to use this program, this tool, to do the work. And I thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Welcome, Senator. Questions for the senator? Seeing none, thank you
All
very
right.
much. And with that, I'll close the public hearing on SB 471. And when Sonia is ready, we'll open up 404. And Senator Gray, if you want to come up. You ready? We'll go ahead and open the public hearing on Senate Bill 404 relative to economic revitalization zone tax credits, and recognize the prime sponsor, Senator Gray.
Hi there. My name is James Gray. I'm a senator representing Senate District 6, which starts on Route 11 down in Rochester and Stratford and moves up to Alton and Gilmanton. This bill is at the request of the department. The bill makes changes to the economic revitalization zone tax credit administered by the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. Four major things, and you can read those in the methodology, but I'll just summarize them here. Increases the aggregate credits awards from $825,000 to $1 million. It changes from a program year to a calendar year, and the amounts and types of the eligible credits makes changes to those, and then has to do with people who already have credits to make sure that they're utilized properly, but the department can explain that much better than I.
Thank you very much. Questions for the senator? Seeing none, thank you very much. Bridget, with BEA, would you like to come up? I know you know, in case anybody has questions. This is Bridget Beck with Business Economic Affairs. Is there any comment you want to make relative to the bill? Looks like it's a little bit of housekeeping, getting the statute in line with the new name of your organization,
Well,
along with some minor changes to modernize the bill.
yes, I would just like to say that I've been working on this program for approximately 10 years, and this is really just clean up, make sure it's operating properly, making sure we maximize the tax credits and everybody who gets them, and just make the program run smoother and easier since I'm a one-man show.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator Fenton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it moves it from 5 to 8 years. Why the 3 extra years?
Just it's a reevaluation period, and that's because we're not seeing a lot of change in the areas in 5 years. Change is much slower than that when it comes to these zones that they're creating, and all that is me just making sure they still meet the criteria to be a zone. So we're just kind of bumping it from 5 to 8 because they're consistently still meeting the criteria. So it's not an actual necessary, but it just would be a little bit helpful.
Follow up, if I may.
Oh,
Just curious. So we have higher caps in this, which means potentially revenue loss. Is there performance guarantees in there, or is it just?
Oh, well, the performance has already happened. They've already done. It's kind of, if you've done this, this is what you're going to get. So the incentive is there ahead of time, almost like dangling the carrot above. So when they meet the criteria and they get this reward, it's just a different way to distribute it through. Oh, instead of, I'm not sure if it reduced it. I wasn't in the room when it was written, but if it reduced it down from 6 years to 5, but it would just change the amount each year so they could get more, a little bit more return on their refund.
Okay, thank you.
further questions from the committee? So again, the summary, this looks like it increases the total credit. So the net access on, or the net effect on revenue is about 175,000, which is going from 825
Yes.
to 1 million in maximum credits that can be issued in aggregate to anybody who's within this, who qualifies.
Yes, because the proration on this has been down to in the 30s.
Yeah.
They're getting 30 cents on the dollar. So we're just giving them a little bit more of what they qualified for because it's been at the same cap since its inception, I believe. So we're just trying to give it a little bit more boost to bring it to a little bit more of an actual incentive to do something.
So yeah, follow up with that question answer. So again, you just said they're prorated to roughly 30%. That basically means that people are putting in for the maximum amount of, well, it was 40, now it's 50 if this bill passes, amount, but they're only getting 1/3 of that
Correct.
number because the program doesn't have enough money.
Exactly.
If it's the correct.
Yes, yeah.
Senator Roosevelt?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So, given the number of these zones and a relatively small increase in the aggregate amount, how much would each tax credit be worth?
Well, we're hoping to bring it up. I mean, we can't ask for all that we need because the requests are quite high. I think If I look at last year, they would have qualified for 2 million. So we're just looking to give them a little bit more money, and we know that it's kind of a conservative time right now to ask for a lot more money. We're just, since the early 2000s, it's been at the same base, so we're just hoping to help out a little bit more with that number. But maybe 75% of what they asked for, they might get at that point. It all depends. Each year is different. Last past year, we had 35 applicants, even though there's an entire state in on the game. We just never know who's growing and who's in on projects that year.
Follow up?
So are we talking about like $10,000 more, 50,000, 100?
I'd have to run the numbers because each company is different on what they qualify for. The average tax credit, I believe, award was 62,000 if you average them all together last year, and they only got 23,000 was what they got calculated. So I assume it would go up by at least half of that if we gave a little bit more money to the program. I'm hoping.
One more?
So it would go from 23,000 to like 35,000?
Correct. So if they got $100,000 credit before and only got 30,000, now we're hoping it'll go up. Their base credit will go up. They'll still have however many years too, and they don't all take the maximum. So if someone got 100,000, they might not have that much business profits tax to apply it to yet. Especially if it's a new company, not as much profit, so they stretched it out. They can use it over those 6 years. So it's a little hard to run some of those numbers sometimes to know how they're applying it. And I'm not sure if even DRA could give me kind of the exact companies to go back and follow through. But that's what I'm hoping to do with a little more of that cleanup, where we have to make sure they've used all their tax credits before they reapply. So there's not one sitting on the books unused, because I think that's what's going on now. When they keep applying and we can't really follow up which each individual company tracking, that if they apply every year and they can only use so much, then they're essentially leaving unused credits out there.
I'm sorry.
One more? No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So do we need an amendment to require the department to make sure that the full amount of the tax credit is being used?
I think that was in the language proposed, and I think it's because we're requesting that if all the language is present, that there really doesn't, it might eliminate the need for rules for the program, because the language is completely and totally engulfed in the bill.
You good? So again, if in the window of time that they've issued the tax credit, they don't have enough business profits tax to use up the tax credits that have been issued, those tax credits lapse back into the fund and they can, and they're unused.
Well, we're not able to track it well enough to reuse them, is what I'm saying. So this is going to help us maximize the money we have again and hopefully stretch it farther.
Anything else? Seeing them, thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wishes to testify on Senate Bill 404? And Jack, can you stick your head in the room right over there and get Senator Roachford? Tell him we're going to be on time. So he doesn't have to come in, but because it doesn't start till 9:25, but let him know we're on time. And with that, I'll close the public hearing on Senate Bill 404, and we're going to be standing by until 9:25, and we'll open the next hearing. What's that? No. That's true.
Yeah.
We don't have.
Yeah, I guess you can remember. I'll talk to them.
Put aside $1 million for a program every year, but then at the end of it, so in 8 years, you have $8 million. But because there's a state limit, lose it, some of them, they're going to put in general fund. Because it's not about that. Good question.
I mean, it looks like they're by loan.
Yeah.
And it's not even a commission.
5 minutes. Want to take up anything, a couple bills and, oh, just, 471, executive session. Talk about it, nothing else. Sure. Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, it may not.
Been moved and seconded. Senator McGonkey moved, we go into executive session. Senator Rosenwald seconded. We are now in executive session. Let's take up the first bill we heard today, 471. Listen, comments or? So I'll start, as we know, we had a public hearing on this last week. A vast majority of the testimony was in opposition. Some of the big things that were spoken about were the fact there's no limit on the fee, the fact that we'd have stranded costs for towns that may implement. We have, because there's no ability to have a regional discussion within the bill, it has to stay within that town, and they may not have projects to use this for. And then lastly, there was the conversation, this will ultimately end up increasing prices for the houses that are above the median, that are outside the affordable range, would increase those prices, which would potentially keep people in the lower priced houses, which means that we wouldn't open up the market for new families coming in because the increase on the other side. That was the takeaway I got. While I think everybody agrees that housing is an issue in the state of New Hampshire, I'm hesitant to call it a crisis, but I will say it's an issue in New Hampshire, and that pay hasn't kept up with cost. Again, we'll open to other comments and
Yeah,
discussions.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with everything that your summary of what we heard, but also this is a penalty for builders. It's going to actually, we're trying to help people, encourage people to build in the state, and this is actually going to do the opposite of that, and I think create more of, maybe gets closer to that crisis for housing. So yeah, I can't support the bill.
Mr. Chair, I think the bill has merit. I think we heard from people who were in support of the bill, support of the ideas. I think there's opportunity here in this bill. I wouldn't outright kill it, but if we're willing to interim study it, and maybe there's a way we can work on it a little more to figure out, maybe if the money goes directly into Housing Champions instead of the fee per se, which I think was BIA recommended. I think there's opportunity here. I don't want to kill a housing bill just because we don't like certain aspects of it. So I think we can maybe work on this.
Further discussion?
Thank you. I mean, I think as written, it's problematic. In section A, 2A, the monies can go different places. And it's not clear to me that any of it would be enough to be effective. And look, I wasn't at the hearing, but Senator Perkins Coker took really good notes. And I think it's worth discussing, but I don't think it should pass in its current form, at least.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. I believe housing is at a crisis mode. I think this is well-intentioned legislation, but I think we heard enough back and forth that it's probably not the right vehicle. And if we have items in here that should be brought forward, I think we can bring it into another bill. So if the discussion's over and you'd entertain a motion, I'd be happy to make a motion.
Again, state your motion.
Motion ITL Senate Bill 471.
I'll second.
So moved ITL by Senator McConkey, seconded by Senator Sullivan. Is there any further discussion on the ITL motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of ITL signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. There's a motion for consent. All
Second.
those in, seconded by Senator Sullivan. All those in favor of consent signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and it will be on consent. So, Um, Senator Sullivan will take it out.
Okay.
Seeing that we have no other business we can really do, we heard the one bill on the economic revitalization. I'm not sure we're ready to exec that, and we're back on time, so I'd like to take the next bill. So I'd entertain a motion to come out of exec.
So moved.
It's been moved by Senator Roosevelt, second by Senator Sullivan to come out of consent, at executive council, executive session. Wow, I need more coffee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and we are out of executive session where we'll open the public hearing on Senate Bill 505 and recognize the prime sponsor, Senator Rochford.
Good morning, Senator, Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is David Rocher. I represent Senate District 1. Senate District 1 actually is the largest area of OHRV trails and riding in the state, and that's what we're talking about today. The Senate Bill 505 here is before you, and there's a couple things that it does really quickly. It should be noted that this was brought to me by the New Hampshire Off-Highway Vehicle Association. And what it does is it eliminates the temporary 10-day registration for non-resident OHRVs. This was put into place in 2014 in an effort to entice out-of-staters to come to New Hampshire to ride our trails, even if it's for a very short period of time. It worked. It was successful. You can see the constant stream of traffic going up there every weekend. The current cost of a 10-day registration, temporary registration, is $34 with a couple of extra fees that bring it up to $42. The typical non-resident OHRV registration is about $100. So people can get two of these in the course and still be less than what it would cost for a non-resident a full registration. Why does that matter? Well, we can get people coming up several times during the year, and the state is still at a loss. We're missing out on that revenue. People are coming anyway. When I was approach with this bill, my biggest concern with this is if we get rid of this, are people from Massachusetts and Connecticut and Rhode Island going to go to other states like Maine and get a temporary license or temporary registration and ride there instead? I don't think that's going to be the case because our riding is in Pittsburgh, and if they were to still do it in Maine, they've got about a 6-hour ride to get to the closest connected trail system. The other thing on this bill is it has a provision to remove the cap of $25,000 on what Fish and Game can spend on law enforcement grants to local law enforcement. Again, we're always looking for there's opportunities, and Fish and Game is here. They'll probably talk about that, partnering with other law enforcement agencies to cover the trail system, and this would allow them to give out those grants more freely. That's it in a nutshell. I know there are folks here behind me that can probably get into the deeper issues, the ins and outs, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you've got any right now.
Any questions for Senator Rochford? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Senator, off topic, are you on time over there?
No.
Okay.
We're never on time. We're never on time.
How late do you think you are?
Well, our first hearing had 8 people, and we're on number 2 when I came over here.
Okay,
So we're probably 30 minutes behind.
okay.
All right.
Captain Eastman, if you want to come on up.
I can send our intern over to get.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Captain Eastman, just state your name for the record and go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Lang and members of the committee. My name is Michael Eastman. I'm a captain with the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department Law Enforcement Division. I am the OHRV coordinator for the department. This bill is really just a collaboration between the New Hampshire Off-Highway Vehicle Association, Bureau of Trails, and Fish and Game. So what we seek to do here and what the issues are with the temporary currently is that as Senator Rochford said, that the cost for the temporary currently is $42. You can purchase as many as you want, and the general cost for a for just a regular year-round OHRV registration is $108 if you don't want to become part of a club. So you can get 2 or 3 of these and go beyond the 10 days. The way the sticker's designed, it's really, you issued a sticker and then the agent writes on it with a Sharpie. So if I happen to go buy it and can't read a black Sharpie on a dark, it could even be the color of this table and I couldn't read it. So there's so many loopholes within it, it's really not working. That $42 really doesn't go towards the trail maintenance. It only goes for administrative costs for Bureau of Trails and Fish and Game. So really there's no gain here to the trail system or to the agencies or to the state as a whole. So that's the reason why I started to look into this and say, why do we need this? And we all work together. We do about 3,800 of these registrations a year. There certainly is people buying them, but that 3,800, and do we really know how many of those 3,800 or 2 or 3 have purchased, throughout the year? So really there's a loss, going on here. So we really don't see that as benefiting, the agency as a whole or the state as a whole. Understand, there's some suggestion that people might go to Maine where they do have a temporary registration. Understand that a 7-day registration over there is $101. Their full year registration is $116, and none of that goes to trails. The Department of Inland Fisheries, who manages this, is funded through general funds. The trail systems, they do get some money through general funds. So none of that $101 is going back to the trail system like it does in this state. So it's a very different system. So for $108 here, you get money going back to the trail systems. You get, the agencies that are working on safety and enforcement and the trail maintenance are really would be getting that money. So there's really no need for this. As the senator said, it did work, but it has so many loopholes now that people are gaming the system and it's really not working. The other part of this is the change to the dissemination of the of grant monies, OHRV PD grant monies towards enforcement on public ways. And that really, I feel that and we all feel that monies from these registrations for enforcement on roads is not really where the money should be spent. That's what highway grants are for. So if there's really those issues on those, public ways, that's really where the money should come from, not from OHRV registrations. The third part of this was just an amendment, and that was to change for the registration of licensing guides. There was a little, there was an issue after this bill had been passed, and then in October of 2024 when it became effective, what we found is that obviously the guidelines that go around the dissemination of people's criminal records and things like that through NCIC and CGIS certifications just can't go to the director, can't go to her designee. Her designee could be any employee within Fish and Game. It really needs to be a law enforcement person that's been through those trainings and has the certification. So that's why we asked for the change to the chief of Fish and Game and of law enforcement. So that's really my testimony.
Questions for Captain Senator McConkey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a short-term member of this committee. But I have a question on, I understand the temporary registration and especially using Sharpies and everything else. So the person that's coming from Massachusetts, which in my district, we love every one of those, they spend money. Are they using our trails but must register like anyone else would? Can Massachusetts register their snowmobile in New Hampshire so that we're getting that money? Or are we giving them a free pass?
No, they're required to have a New Hampshire OHRV registration. There's no years ago there was reciprocity between states, but really it was Maine and Vermont, and they said no thanks. So
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Senator Roosevelt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for taking my question. I'm looking at the fiscal note, and I don't see any expense to Fish and Game for changing any systems by eliminating this temporary license. I don't know if you do them in a computer or if somebody just writes it down in a notebook. But could you tell us what impact there might be on data systems?
It's not done in the computer system. It's done all by hand. There's only a handful of agents that do it throughout the state. A lot of those agents don't have really voiced that they think it's a pain to do. There's no real benefit to them other than they're servicing the person that might come in and buy oil or a new machine or something like that. But our licensing division is totally behind it. It's a net gain to them in time and funding. So it's a positive. I haven't heard anything negative on that end.
Thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Captain.
Thank you.
If anybody else who wishes to testify, and members, you should have in your packet, Senator Roseford's amendment, 144S, to look at. If anybody else can step up, I'll just ask you to sign in on that sheet of paper.
Sure. Let's pass out. There's 6 copies there. Hi, my name is Steve Wilkie. I represent New Hampshire Off-Highway Vehicle Association. We are 23 OHRV clubs in New Hampshire, and our club members and club officers had asked for us to get Senator Rochefort to put this bill in, and we thank him very much for that. A couple of reasons is, this was only supposed to be 3 years in the beginning when all the clubs introduced this. Very little of this goes into trail maintenance. We need more for trail maintenance. The weather is our biggest issue. We're looking at a future registration change. We appreciate that Fish and Game has now gone to an online application for registration. They're working on to make that program a little better. As Captain Eastman said, Maine is really our only competitor with temporaries, and they raised their temporary registration just 3 years ago, and I think that is to eliminate it eventually because they put that price so close. We find that most of the temporary registrations go to people who come here once. They only ride for a limited amount of time. They don't think they have to follow the rules or the laws. They can ride wherever they want because then they're going home and they won't come back again that year. It's very hard. We have some people that ride 2 or 3 times on the one registration. So it just makes sense to eliminate this at this point in time. If only a third of these people go to full registrations, and it will even out as far as the amount that goes to Bureau of Trails, Fish and Game, and the GIA. So we don't see where any agency or the Trails Fund will hurt on this. And Bureau of Trails did call us this morning. They are in support of this also. They couldn't be here. But as you saw, Fish and Game was there supporting it also. When Senator Rochefort was curious whether this was going to be supported by his constituents, I called 5 different registration agents. Only about 1/5 of our registration agents sell temporary registrations. They're only available May through October for the wheeled side only. It's not for the snowmobile side. So it gets confusing when people are trying to find out where to get these. And when you have a large event, those couple of local registration agents that have these temporaries, often they run out. So people come here expecting to pay one thing, they get there, they don't have any stickers, and then they're kind of upset. So rather than all that, unknowns, let's get rid of it. Go on with that. Gives a chance for them to join a club, get the discount,
once a club has that name and email, we can talk to them about etiquette, riding, what it takes to keep these trails open. Because the number one thing that's hurting our trails and closing them is bad behavior and off-trail riding. And these people just think they can go anywhere, where if they've got a full year registration, club membership, we have their ear. So I do encourage you to try to pass this bill.
Questions? Senator Roosevelt.
Thank you. So these registrations are sold through October.
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
looking at the effective date on the bill is not until May 1st of next year. And I'm wondering if there's a reason why we wouldn't make it effective at the end of, or even, well, probably couldn't make it effective before we start selling them just because of the
Right.
timing, but we certainly could move it up to this fall.
So I'm going
But-
to ask the captain to come back up, so it might be a
Okay.
question for him.
Okay.
But October 31st is when they stop selling it. So it would essentially end then anyway if this bill passed. By the time it got signed, Fish and Game has probably already started the process of ordering these stickers for the 26-27 season. So I don't think they would be able to pull that back after they've invested that money and those agents have put in there.
A good question for Captain Easton.
Any other questions for Mr. Wilkie? Seeing none? Thank you very much. Captain, would you mind coming up? I had a question that was spurred by his discussion. So currently, a temporary registration you have to do in person, whereas the full year registration, person can go online from Massachusetts, fill out all the paperwork and be ready to go. So it's more convenient for them.
It certainly would. So currently they do online, and it would take about, we're held to 5 days to get it in the mail. The mail's been a little slow lately, but they have been getting it right away. So that's the current program. We are looking to change that, where it's going to be, once they register, they'll have a 20-day registration, which they'll hold, waiting for those actual stickers to come in the mail. So we are improving that program now. To your question that you asked, Mr. Wilkie, was that why not move it up to October 31st? And he was correct. It's because we've already ordered we're in the process of ordering this next year's, this 26-27 season. The beginning of the registration season is May 1st. So we just look for that 27, or I think it was May 1st of 27, that we would be able to implement this and implement that other 20-day program. So it would all kind of come together. We'll make it a little bit easier, and also for our publications like the OHRV Digest to basically promote that these are no longer available.
So the only reason that I really am asking this is that there will be a new legislature, which could change its mind. And if you're in process of ordering them, I get it, but you're not going to sell them after October 31st. So is there a reason why this should not become effective November 1st of this year, the current legislature?
We're perfectly fine with going with that suggestion. I mean, that was the reasoning that I got from our licensing, was really in ordering. But with the online system being advanced, I don't see any reason why we couldn't change that.
Thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Seeing none? Thank you, Captain. Is there anybody else wish to testify on Senate Bill 505? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on Senate Bill 505, and we are right back on time. We're gonna go to Senate Bill 511, and if we can get the prime sponsor to come up and get ready. Sonia.
Is there an amendment on this one?
On 511,
No. I don't have.
I don't see one. Wait one more minute. We're gonna do this one later today. It being 9:45, open a public hearing on Senate Bill 511 and recognize Mr. Bossy to introduce the bill for Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Chairman Lang, members of the committee. My name is Grant Bossy. I am Deputy Chief of Staff for the New Hampshire Senate, here to introduce Senate Bill 511 on behalf of Senator Keith Murphy, the bill's prime sponsor. Second bite of the apple for Senator Murphy, and like some of the other bills you're hearing today, it's an attempt to maximize the contribution of out-of-staters to our state funds, in this case, state parks. Senator Murphy thinks that New Hampshire residents should be given a lower entrance fee to our state parks than our out-of-state visitors. And he also thinks the park system should be able to come up with deeper discounts for veterans and for school groups. I have distributed his statement for the bill for your consideration. He's also worked up a chart comparing in-state and out-of-state fees for our neighboring states. Thank you for your consideration of Senate Bill 511.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Bossy? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who wishes to testify on Senate Bill 511? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on Senate Bill 511 and entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
It's been moved by Senator Sullivan, seconded by Senator McConkey to go into executive session. We are now in executive. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. I'd like to take up the OHRV bill we just heard. I think there was no objection to the bill. It's supported by the organization, the OHRV Association. I think it reduces the administrative burden. It actually increases convenience for out of state. Now they'd be able to do it online versus having to show up somewhere and hope that they do temporary registration. So I will say there is an amendment that's attached. And I think if we were to make a motion about it pass and adopt the amendment, there'd be a further amendment by Senator Rosenwald around the date as well. So is there any further discussion on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Been moved OTP by Senator Rosenwald, seconded by Senator Sullivan. I will introduce for Senator Roseford amendment number 144S. And we move on to pass on the amendment. And that's seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of Amendment 144S signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. I recognize Senator Rosenwald for a motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move a committee amendment to make the effective date November 1st, 2026.
And I'll second that. Any discussion on changing the effective date? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We're on the final motion, which is ought to pass as amended with both the 144S as well as the verbal amendment. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of OTPA signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment, the bill is passed. Motion for consent by Senator Rosenwald, seconded by Senator Sullivan. Is there any further discussion on consent? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and it will be on consent, and Senator Rosenwald will take it out.
I have no trails in my district.
Let's talk about the bill we just heard on out-of-state fees for state parks. Discussion on that. I think it's a reasonable measure. Again, we look at what's going on around our states, around our neighboring states, and every single one of them seem to have a higher fee for when New Hampshire come and visits their states. So I'm not sure why we wouldn't do that, except the idea of reciprocity in fees and charge them more as well. But happy to have a discussion.
I don't have an issue with it, but I would say that most of our state parks don't charge fees.
Say that again.
Most of our state parks, I think, don't charge fees.
Nope, that's not true. We
Right.
have, like, you go to Bear Brook State Park, Pawtuckaway State
Well,
Park.
some of
and-
them too,
And they all have gate fees,
Yeah.
if you're using the park.
but there are others that,
Yeah, there may be some that don't,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's not what this bill is addressing. The ones that we are charging fees for, we're just saying we're gonna charge out stage a little bit more to help us maintain those parks.
and if I could just follow up on Cannon Mountain skiing,
Mhm.
we do charge out-of-state seniors, for example, a whole lot more than resident people over 60 or 65, which is basically free.
So I'd entertain a motion. Yep,
Well, I just have
yep, go ahead.
a fear in the fiscal note.
Okay.
Reading it, the department reduced the day use fee for residents by 50%, revenue would decrease by 1.1 million.
Right, because this bill,
Says you can't charge 50% of the entry fees charged to non-residents. So if we were to lower that, we would lose money.
well, because it's a combination of raising, we don't know the overall impacts. We don't know how many out-of-state visitors visit our state parks. And so we don't know whether it's gonna net to zero. When we increase the fee and then reduce the resident fee, will that zero out to a net zero? I think they gave us a worst-case scenario that just by, if we left the fee where it is, there's an estimate on what would happen.
Follow up, it sounds like the commissioner is the one that sets the fees.
Correct.
So we have no control as the legislature.
Correct.
If they decide to lower the fee, which kind of makes me nervous because we're in a crunch right now. That's my fear with this bill, is that we have no legislative oversight. We'll be like, hey, you can lower the fee, but then we have nothing.
Well, I will say that our state parks are self-funded. So I can't imagine they're gonna lower the fee so they can't fund themselves.
You never know, man. There's a lot of things I said I can't imagine in this place, and then
So,
sure as hell.
and then Senator McConkey.
And my guess is, and I'd be really shocked, is that this bill would go to finance.
Right. Senator McConkey and then Senator Sullivan.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, so I'm sparked by the conversation we had in transportation about tolls on New Hampshire highways, and that we have the ability to freeze where our residents are and charge people coming into the state a higher fee. And I'm wondering if this committee considered raising the non-resident fee when you're doing this to capture some of that loss. I know from my work with the Governor's Commission, our camping is sold out almost immediately before the season even starts. And if we were to capture another couple dollars per entry fee from a non-resident, they're still going to be here. So I'm just wondering if this group had considered if you want to drop or freeze and raise the other fee. They're still going to come. I can guarantee you this.
Yeah, I don't think this is gonna stop anybody coming. We raised the state park campground fee by $2 for a non-resident. I don't think that's gonna have any impact on whether they show up or not, except that it'll generate more revenue for the state parks to be able to manage state parks. But again, that's not the portion of statute we're talking about right now. About we don't set fees for the park because we allow them to because they're self-funded to set the fees to manage themselves, to make sure that they have the funds they need. But as Senator Roosevelt said, we're addressing this over in finance. It's an FN bill, so it will be going to finance.
Wouldn't you be shocked? Wouldn't you be shocked if it was waived from finance?
I wouldn't be shocked, but if it does go to finance, I have no problem with asking Commissioner Stewart to come in, but understand she's also a commissioner that is not going to be sticking around. She's already indicated she's not going to stay for another renewal of service, and she's the one that governs state parks right now.
So I just wanted to speak to the methodology.
Yep.
It says in the third paragraph, last line. However, the department anticipates that fee changes of this extent would deter visitation by 5 to 20%. I disagree. I don't think that people are going to not come to New Hampshire for all that we have to offer because we've raised the fees a little bit. I just spent a weekend with some friends in Massachusetts, and it's way more expensive to do anything in Massachusetts than it is to do anything here, even with raised fees.
Again, I ended up in New Hampshire because I lived in New Jersey. My parents came to New Hampshire and camped here every summer. And I lived at Bear Brook State Park from 4 years. We'd come up and we'd come up on Memorial Day. My father would go back home, and we'd lived at Bear Brook State Park for the entire summer.
You go to Pawtuckaway
Back
every
in the 70s, you used to be able to
You
do that.
Behind those barrels.
I didn't find the barrels. I didn't find the barrels.
You go to
Um,
Pawtuckaway every summer camping, mostly because it's close to home and we're really bad at camping.
It-
But we really enjoy our time there.
But I guess my point is that I don't think if they had raised the fee for $1 for an out-of-state New Jersey person coming, we would have stopped doing that. We would have still continued to come up to enjoy the New Hampshire and do it because it was way better than New Jersey. My parents ultimately moved here because of that back in the 70s, late 70s or mid 70s. So again, I still think that the agency's gonna look at this bill and then change their fees to manage what we're doing. So I anticipate that the in-state fee will stay exactly the same, and it'll create an out-of-state fee that matches the statute so that we'll capture out-of-state revenue.
Right.
With that, the motion on the table is, we do have a motion, ought to pass.
Do we?
Do we have it?
I'll make a-
Sonia, we have a motion yet?
Okay.
All right.
I'll make a motion not to pass.
It's been moved by Senator Sullivan, ought to pass, seconded by Senator McConkey, ought to pass on Senate Bill 511. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator Rosenwald moves consent.
I do.
It's been seconded by Senator Fenton. All those in favor of consent signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
I'll take
Ayes
it.
have it. It'll be on consent. Senator Sullivan will take it out.
Bless you.
Waiting goes flat.
Senator Rosenwald, do you have a state park in your property? On your...
I do not.
All right, I'd take a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
It's been moved by Senator Sullivan, seconded by Senator Lang to come out of executive session. All those in favor of coming out of executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And we have 4 minutes to wait for the next bill.
They were very far behind next door. I was supposed to,
What's it?
they were very far behind next door. I was supposed to
Who- which
introduce at
committee is that?
9:30.
It being 10 o'clock, I'm going to open the public hearing on Senate Bill 542. Welcome the prime sponsor, Senator Lang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Tim Lang from Senate District 2. I introduced Senate Bill 542. So this bill came out of a conversation that last term I served on the Charitable Gaming Commission. And the concern was, as our gaming industry has matured and grown, some of the checks that are being written to charities are getting rather large. And the secondary issue is that there's wait lists for our gaming operators to be able to allow more charities in. So in an effort to try to address those issues that were brought up in the Charitable Gaming Commission, the bill, you have the bill that was introduced. The original bill that was in front of you did two things. It shortened the number of days from 10 to 7, which would have meant that at minimum, each gaming operator would go from 72 possible charities to 104 possible charities in a given week. Just by making the one change go into 7 days, we'd increase our number of charities available within the gaming system by 30%. There was concern about the second half of the bill, which was a tiering process, increasing the number. If you were a charity that got, if you were a gaming operator with less than $1 million in revenue, you'd only have one charity. If you were between 1 million and 5 million, you would have two charities like you currently have. And then if you were above $5 million, you would go to 3 charities. The problem that was created is that, number one, a significant portion of our gaming operators now fall in that third tier, and that would dramatically reduce, not only by lowering the days, we reduce the size of the check, and then we add another charity on top of that, we reduce the size of the check again. And in speaking with the charities and the operators, everyone felt that that was too much, too fast. And so you have an amendment in front of you, 138S, which I'll ask you to consider. It strictly does the 7-day change. To give us time. I think that we've seen the maturing of the industry that will support this. The industry supports this. They agree that by doing that, it makes it easier on them instead of these weird 10-day blocks. Now they just have one full week, Monday to Sunday, and then change charities. It makes it much easier for them administratively, and it will increase and shorten wait lists, allow more charities to have access to charitable gaming revenue. That's the bill.
Questions for Senator Lang? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Morning. It's just a pleasure. Very good. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to come and testify at this
Just
hearing.
introduce yourself to the committee. Well, I know
yes.
who you are.
Hi,
Everybody else
I'm
doesn't.
Dr. Debbie Warner from Littleton. I have gone to all of the commission meetings that have happened since they started. And I do understand the need for this 7-day instead of 10-day thing. I'm very good at math, and 7 and 10, 7-day weeks and 10 days, just, they don't match up. There's not a very good common denominator for them. And so I think the 7 is a very good idea. The 10s were somewhat unfair because you might get 2 weekends, or you might get, you know, a very oddly shaped week of, or 10 days worth of donations to receive for a charity. And it's just, the math is really hard. The 7 is a very good idea, and I just think it's a really good idea to bring it forward.
Any questions for Dr. Warner? Seeing none? Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to testify on Senate Bill 542? Alicia?
Sorry,
You didn't check the box saying you were speaking.
My bad. I apologize. Hi, my name is Alicia Preston. I represent the New Hampshire Charity Gaming Operators Association. We are here in support of the bill as intended to be amended by Senator Lang for all the reasons that are stated. It's more uniform to have 7 days than 10, and most importantly, it will open it up to upwards of 400 more charities that can benefit from the charitable gaming industry in New Hampshire.
Questions for Alicia? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wish to testify on Senate Bill 542? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on Senate Bill 542. We have 15 minutes, 15 minutes before the next hearing, and entertain a motion to go into executive session. Been moved by Senator Rosenwald, seconded by Senator Sullivan, to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. I obviously would like to take up 542. So again, I don't know that we have to have any more discussion. I think it's pretty clear. I'll make a motion of auto pass.
I'll second.
And seconded, I'll offer amendment number 138S. And then seconded, any further discussion? All those in favor of amendment 138S signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Well, we gotta vote for
We
it
have to
first.
vote for it first.
We gotta do the actually OTPA.
Moving right
record
ahead.
vote. So I'm with you on this one. I'll get there. I promise. Just give me a minute. So the current motion on the floor is ought to pass with amendment. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, 5-0. And Senator Fenton makes a motion for consent. It's seconded by Senator Rosenwald. All those in favor of consent signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And I will take this bill out. And now we have time for a bio break because we don't need to be back until 10:20. So I entertain a motion to. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss in executive session? I will say just on a meeting basis, we have one bill that was sent over from the House that we're going to have to schedule. On top of that, we have one bill, one or two bills. Sonny, was it one or two in late filing? I know I had one. And so I think there's one or two bills on late filing. So my intent is to meet on the 28th, a week from today, and we'll schedule the remaining of those bills there.
Senator, one note, the late file bills probably won't be out by next week.
Okay, well, whatever's left, if I can, well, my intent is to do that. If I can't, then we'll push it out to the first week in February. But if we can get all the bills out and scheduled, and then by the first week in February, I'd like to have everything exec, and so we're done in Ways and Means.
The late file sponsor and co-sponsor sign off is February 3rd, I think, right, Grant?
That is correct.
Yeah, so
So-
I guess we have to wait.
Right.
Guess we're gonna be in the middle of February. If we have to wait till the 3rd before I can even.
Is the 3rd, I don't know what day of the week. So
Yeah,
we can meet on the 4th.
Well, after primes and co-sponsors sign off, it still takes a little time to run it through the machine and get it out of OLS into the clerk's office, up assigned to committee, noticed. I would say you're not likely to have that in your possession until the next week, if not the week after, because you need to put it in the calendar to notice the public hearing. We can check with OLS and see if those bills might be ready early. There's nothing preventing prime sponsors from signing off before that deadline, especially if they don't want to wait for co-sponsors. So if there's a couple of bills you want to get through the process quicker, let us know and we can see what we can do to expedite that. But no guarantees that you'll have the bills in your possession by February 4th.
But what I'm trying to say is that I'd like to have just 2 more meetings of Ways and Means. I may have to juggle a schedule to make that happen, but we'll have one more public hearing with any remaining public hearing bills. We can exec anything we want then. If we don't get to all the bills to exec that day for whatever reason, then we'll have one more hearing, so.
Is that because of this room?
Well, we modified our processes a little bit.
It's a
so
little
it's-
cozy.
Yeah. So anyway, so just know that we're gonna have at least one more meeting, possibly 2. Depends on how many bills we end up with, and if we can exec them all on whatever next day I set. But you can anticipate a little, sounds like I probably won't do the 28th just because I won't have the late bills. I don't want to make people come in for one bill or something like that, that one house bill. We'll try to make it so it's worth the while driving in from Keene and Nashua. And, well, you won't be here.
I'm at the ready.
So, so just know we'll have at least one more meeting, probably be the second week in February at this point, if we're waiting for late bills and sign offs, so. All right,
I'm gonna pop next door and see if they're,
yep, entertain a motion to come out of exec.
oh, someone,
It's been moved and seconded, for come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. We are in recess until, the 10:20. And Grant. Apologize for that, being a little bit late, but we'll again open the public hearing on Senate Bill 561. Recognize the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Senate, Mr. Bossy, for Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Grant Bossy, Deputy Chief of Staff for the New Hampshire Senate, here to introduce Senate Bill 561 on behalf of Senator Keith Murphy, the bill's prime sponsor. This bill was a request of Dr. Debbie Warner of Littleton, who is here today to talk about it. It concerns the ability of charitable gaming license applicants to change their business address while the application is pending. Senator Murphy has also worked on an amendment. The latest version is 0191S that he would ask you to consider. I would defer questions to Dr. Warner and the subject matter experts here today. Thank you for your consideration of Senate Bill 561.
Thank you, Mr. Bossy. Jack, do we have a sign-in sheet? Oh, right. 561. Dr. Warner, come on up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members of the Ways and Means Committee in the Senate. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Dr. Deborah Warner from Littleton, and I have can tell you the story of this bill and especially the amendment, which is what we originally intended. Littleton was surprised to be invited to a listening session at the high school in May of 2023 for a casino that soon intended to occupy the Staples store. Over 100 people came and many spoke. 95% spoke strongly against the casino. We were told then that nothing could be done about it. Afterward, we read the enabling legislation for the casino and the majority report, which stated that the local option was not specifically needed because it could be handled in local ordinance. The citizens created an ordinance prohibiting the casino. But at the planning board hearing, we discovered that the state preemption nullified the local action. The article passed on the town warrant by 60%, but could not be enforced. Immediately, the citizens brought this concern to Concord, and the local option bill passed unanimously by the House and Senate and now stands as law. Towns are now seeing articles on their own warrants pertaining to the opt-out local option statute. Towns, including Littleton, again. We are involved in the bill all along to help craft it, including a carve-out for businesses already deeply invested in their casino facilities. We respected that they should not be forced out of a town by local option after they are already established. That would be unfair and detrimental to New Hampshire's pro-business climate. The same deference is granted also to the new applicants in the moratorium pool. Even though at the time they had not built their facilities, our citizens likewise respected their investment and supported their exemption from the local option bill. They should not be forced out of a town due to a town vote while they are in the process of developing their business. So what brings this concern to you today is that a particular small restriction, not in the local option bill, but in the moratorium statute, hampers a voluntary move from a town if this casino applicant wishes to change their municipal placement. This is not a pro-business restriction. Normal businesses reevaluate their circumstances and respond to change with change. Under normal business conditions, they would, unless they would assess the changing market environment. They'd generate alternatives. Opportunities open up, and parties involuntarily seek peaceful, profitable, compromise solutions. That's the normal course of business in New Hampshire. The no-move restriction in the moratorium, the RSA, and you can tell 284-22B, Roman 2, parentheses B, the current version, is overly austere. It does not allow a gentle resolution of the conflict between a town's stance and the casino's own right to business, and also the casino's common right in business for adaptation, to make the best use of opportunity and changed market conditions. Being a town affected by this over restriction, we do ask that the statute be adapted to allow a reasonable distance movement for the casino applicant that wishes to make such a move. This is voluntary flexibility for their address, not a forced move. Littleton has respected the rights of these businesses all along, even in our support of the carve out for local option, the statute. The primary consequence to the no move requirement is the elimination of business agility without the option to relocate or adjust. The business is compromised in its primary mechanisms of resolving or adapting to the town's needs. There are many other places that would welcome a casino within the geography described in the amendment, which can be tweaked by the committee if it need be. There may be very good incentives for an applicant to look further and for more profit and benefit to the state. In some overlooked sites that are starving for a casino and an opportunity like this. In summary, freezing a casino applicant's location through the no move requirement limits the business's ability to compromise and resolve issues with its host town. No move stifles opportunity for both the casino and the town's success. The no move requirement undermines business agility, stripping the operator of the flexibility needed to resolve local conflict. But impasse and conflict are not inevitable. Instead, allowing a voluntary relocation ensures that the casino's applicant's economic engine could choose to move to another location better aligned with that town's needs and the state's revenue goals. Specifically, to a town within the regional geography that would eagerly welcome the potential revenue and charitable benefits of a casino in their municipality. This is a transition time for New Hampshire as casinos grow in our fair state, and local option brings a balance. The applicant and the town pool affected by this bill is very small. Addressing the exceptions from the local option RSA in a gentle way, a reasonable way, balanced to make the transition fair to both the casinos and the towns. Casino interests, the towns of New Hampshire. Please ought to pass Senator Murphy's amendment and this bill, Senate Bill 561. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Wardner? Right now, Dr. Warner is the only one, but I'm gonna ask Val to come up. So I can speak to her about it from lottery. So
I intended to go through the steps of the amendment. I forgot to keep talking. Do you want me to do that?
If you want to submit the written, that'd be better for us, so we can take it with us. We're not going to exec this bill today, so
Okay.
We can take any written testimony and take time to read it before we exec it.
Okay, we do have copies. Have your copies been passed out?
That I'm sure it's. In the
Okay, I just have one. This is. One. Oh yeah, we have it. You have it. Okay, that one is 2026 0191S. If I could just point out one thing is the middle part of it, that's bold italic, where we want to change the sending RSA, that a municipality within the same executive council district or in a budding county of the same latitude or a more northerly one for our county. And I am told that this might be the only one left in that pool, but in any case, our county is Grafton County, and north of us is Coos County. And I had an occasion to go all over Coos County in the past 10 years and talking about these things. And many people said they would love to have a casino in their town. And so it's a target-rich environment, one might say. It would be fine. And they would love it. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Ward? Seeing none.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So Dr. Warden was the only person to sign up that I have on my list, but I am going to ask Val to come up from lottery. Val King. So Val, I want to make sure, I know lotteries reviewed this bill. I want to make sure I understand what the implications are before we go on this. So because this is dealing with 284, 22-B, Roman 2, sub B, this small subsection of the lottery laws. And we're only talking about applicants in a window of time that have between January 1 and October 15th of 2023. Is that correct? And my understanding is there were 5 applicants in that window of time, 2 of which have been granted, 2 of which have not been granted, and 1 that I'm not sure what the status is. But
Correct. I think only 2 are viable for this that I'm aware of at this time.
so the Salem and the Littleton are the 2 licensees that were applied in that window of time that would be granted the right to move.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee?
Thank you. So why is it fair to allow only 2 of the applicants of license holders to move and not the rest of the operators? Would be my first question.
Well, that's not something that the agency determines. That's a legislative decision, not an agency decision.
Can I ask one quick question before you?
Yeah.
And confirm, currently operators can't move.
Correct.
Right.
Licensee, once it's issued to a operator in a given town, that's the permanent location.
Within that same town. yeah.
Within that same town.
So if I held a license in Nashua and wanted to move to Concord or Merrimack, I couldn't move. But if I were granted a license in Salem and wanted to move to something north of Salem, I could move.
Well, just to be clear, only the if you have a games of chance only license, you can go wherever you
Right,
want within the
right.
state. This is only the requirements to maintain your historic horse racing or your VLT license. In that case, you can only move within the city or town in which your original license was issued.
Okay, but aren't we then making different rules for different entities in the same field?
Well, again, was a legislative decision, not an agency decision, so I can't speak to what the reasoning for that was.
Okay, can I ask another question?
Yeah, I just have
Yeah.
one more comment. I will say that's not uncommon for the legislature to step in and say, we've done it with Hinsdale horse racing, right? So we've named entities before and set laws based on an individual entity or individual rule. So it's not uncommon because we have a blanket rule that the legislature might, for a given reason, step in on a specific entity and allow them to do something that isn't allowed to everybody. So we've done that before with Hinsdale and Rockingham and Belmont. They all have rules right now that don't apply to everybody else. For what it's worth, it's not, I wouldn't say it's never been done before. Let's put it that way.
Could I ask a
Yes.
different question? Well, sort of looking at lines 14 and 15, what do the executive councils have to do with, any of those districts have to do with where these HHR facilities are located, and why only Warren Northerly? What if I wanted to go east or west?
Again, I think this is a question for the senators that initiated the bill. It's not a decision or any involvement of the agency itself.
I can answer your question on executive council. The reason the executive council is because priority is giving to charities that within the same executive council as the facility. So if you change districts, your charities would change for prioritization. That's why executive council is in there.
Okay, and then Northern,
That I
Okay.
have no idea. Because it seems Salem would go anywhere in the state, but Littleton can
And
only get.
Nashua, well, so Nashua can't go anywhere.
Right,
Salem could go anywhere north.
so,
That hasn't said no. Unless it has to be in a budding town.
well, it
Yes.
depends on how you read it, right? So, you know, the budding town, the same latitude or more northerly, yeah, I guess it has to be in a budding town. So it can move north, but it could move, and it can potentially move northeast and northwest, but it can't move south.
Well, it can't move south
Right,
anyway, because
right.
it'd be Massachusetts, but
But you have some people who appreciate that.
Step out the front door of Nashua, the Nash, and you're in Massachusetts.
Can't move much further
I know.
south.
I honestly don't
All right,
understand
further
this
questions,
whole
but that's for executive council. I can tell you that that's why, it's because it has to do with maintaining the charities.
thing. Okay.
One second, Dr. Woods.
you say abutting?
Abutting towns, yeah. Or adjacent towns, you can use whatever phrase, yeah. Further questions for Val? Seeing none, thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on Senate Bill 561? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on Senate Bill 561, and we'll open the next one in just a minute, once we get paperwork taken care of.
Is that just for an attempt to get in?
We will open a public hearing on Senate Bill 635 FN and recognize the prime sponsor, Senator Rishardi.
Good morning. How's everyone today? Yeah, it is pretty cold out there. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'm Denise Rishardi representing District 9. I'm here to discuss Senate Bill 635. It's establishing a health reimbursement arrangement tax credit program. This bill was put together to try and address the continuous problem of health care and coverage, especially among our small business community. This bill will incentivize an alternative to traditional group coverage. It does this by providing a 2-year tax credit for contributions towards an employee's individual coverage HRA, as well as a qualified small employer HRAs. This is just one way for us as legislators to try and help our constituents, and especially the small businesses, to address the high health care costs. These are versatile, employer-funded accounts, which will allow the employee to cover health care premiums and expenses. Crucially, the employee gets to choose how to spend this money. As a last note, you will see that I've brought an amendment forward. This was brought to correct a technical drafting error that was flagged for me by a supporter of the bill. The attached changes should remedy the issue. Year after year, I hear from small business owners across my towns about the burden of health care. This is a step in the right direction to allow small group coverage to get to more of New Hampshire's owners and workers. And I have this if they're interested in having that. If you have any questions, I also think we have people that can answer them in the audience as well.
I just have one question for you. Is there, I didn't see anywhere near there's a maximum of exposure to the state on this tax credit. Was it your intent to have, like, when we do the research and development, did I miss it somewhere? Okay, I missed it somewhere. $10 million. Thank you. That answers my question. I
Okay.
missed it when I read it. I didn't see if there was a maximum exposure to the state.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Senator Ricciardi? Seeing none, thank you. Next up is John Reynolds. Come on up, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I appreciate your the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 635. My name is John Reynolds. I'm the State Director for the National Federation of Independent Business in New Hampshire, or NFIB for short. We represent more than 1,700 small business owners across the state in all industries, all shapes and sizes. About 80% of our members have fewer than 20 employees, so we're generally talking very small businesses. I first want to express my gratitude to Senator Ricciardi for sponsoring this and taking on such an important issue. And I also want to recognize that I realize any ask for money, always in an even-numbered year, but especially now, is a big request. But we really feel this is an important issue for our members and for small businesses everywhere in the state. So at the bottom of this handout, you'll see a little bit about the situation that our members face when it comes to offering healthcare coverage, which is a crucial benefit for finding, hiring, and retaining employees. And a lot of our folks just say that they can't keep up. So in New Hampshire, only 1 in 3 small business owners offers small group coverage to their employees. Most don't because they can't afford it. It's just financially out of reach for the business to do that. In our member surveys, 98% of our members say that they are concerned that the cost of small group coverage for those who offer it is going to become unaffordable and out of reach within the next 5 years. And then perennially, when we survey our members every 4 years, when we survey our members on their biggest challenges, we put a list of 75 issues in front of them. And for the last 40 years, every 4 years, they have said that the cost of employee health insurance is their number one challenge. And that's because that speaks to what a crucial tool benefit it is for maintaining their workforce. So as Senator Ricciardi mentioned, this is a 2-year tax credit designed to incentivize employers to adopt 2 specific types of health reimbursement arrangements. Health reimbursement arrangements generally share a lot of similarities with the more commonly known health savings accounts, which go with high deductible health plans. HSAs and HRAs can be used for qualified medical expenses. So anything from over-the-counter drugs to your prescription copays to copays at the doctor's office. The key distinction is this credit is targeted at businesses who offer 2 specific types of HRAs, individual coverage HRA and qualified small employer HRA. And as the senator mentioned, the key distinction there is it allows employees to use those funds not only for qualified medical expenses, but also to pay for insurance premiums if they choose to buy coverage. But they may not, or they may choose to buy a catastrophic plan and pay cash or join a direct primary care arrangement or something honest to goodness I hadn't even heard of until yesterday. There is a member of the other body who is working on sort of a cash pay network where you can subscribe to that network as an individual or a business and get the cash price, and any provider who participates in that is obligated to honor that cash price. So there's all sorts of new arrangements developing to try to lower the cost of coverage, lower the cost of care. And that's really what our members want. So this responds to their problems in two ways, right? Those who can't afford to offer coverage now would get some help in this 2-year tax credit to get over the startup costs and initial contributions. And then those who are finding that the small group market is simply unsustainable would also have that same option. Although there are guardrails on switching, which is important. So I apologize for bringing healthcare to your committee.
no, you're
and
fine. You're
I'm
fine.
very excited about this bill. Our members are very excited about this bill. We had a body shop owner in Manchester who wanted to come up and testify, but he has been he's been short a couple of workers for the last 3 months, and this is why he wants this option so badly. So he couldn't make it today, but we're very, very excited about the potential that this bill has.
Questions for? Huh? I'm gonna have DRA come up to answer any tax credit questions. If you have. Good. So Senator Fenton.
Thank you. Am I on? Yeah. Thank you for taking my question. So this excludes self-insured businesses, correct?
Sorry. Thank you for the question, Senator. If you offer coverage, so let me back up. It gets a little bit complicated, right? So this would not be compatible with a self-insured plan. So if you offer self-insured coverage to some or all of your employees, you could not simultaneously offer them this type of HRA. If a business offered only the self-insured group coverage to, like, say, a set of full-time employees, but wanted to offer this type of HRA to, let's just say, part-time employees or another set, they could do that. But the credit is, the way the credit is structured, it maxes out at, I'm sorry, I wish I had the numbers right. It maxes out, it's designed to be targeted to businesses with fewer than 50 employees, which is how other states that have passed this have set it up. So we're trying to direct it, right, where the value of the credit declines steeply once you get past that 50 employee mark. So sorry, I hope that answered more than you
thank
asked.
you, I
I
appreciate it.
apologize.
Any further questions? Senator Griswold?
Thank you. Am I correct that the key difference between an HRA and an HSA is that an HSA, you keep the money if you change jobs, and an HRA, you don't?
And the HSA is pre-funded, right? So the money goes into the account, it stays with the employer. The difference is, or I'm sorry, stays with the employee. I apologize. So if the employee doesn't spend the maximum allowed under the reimbursement, then it's not reimbursed. But they do get to keep the plan, which is another unique feature. And then just, oh, sorry, one other thing I did want to mention. So in back of the color, the black and green handout, you'll see a map. So I think this is another unique feature of New Hampshire and why this credit and these types of accounts are a really good fit. So any county in green in this map is a county where the individual market plan is less than the comparable small group plan, and it's set to Hillsborough. So you'll see for a 27-year-old in Hillsborough County, $92 less a month in the individual market than the small group market for the same plan. And for a 50-year-old, it's $156 less a month. So they're getting access to more affordable plans that they can then keep if they move on to a new employer.
Thank you. I wonder if you would agree with me that this would increase the number of uninsured people in New Hampshire. And I specifically are asking because you mentioned catastrophic plans. Because those are limited to 6 months of duration, and people, I think, under the age of 30, anybody else wouldn't be eligible for that kind of plan. And at the same time, the cost of insurance in the individual market on the exchange has gone up 114% in New Hampshire. So would you agree with me that more people would become uninsured if businesses dropped employer insurance?
I think that the guardrails in this bill, so thank you for the question. It's a very good one, and one that we're sensitive to because we don't want to compound the problems in the small group market, right, that already exists. And the small group market has been on a 10-year slide, and that's why a lot of businesses don't offer it and are facing this affordability challenge. But the short answer, in short, no, I don't think that it would decrease the rate of insured. I think we have about 65,000 uninsured people in the state right now. I think if people have this option, generally, if people have this option, I think it's going to increase the number of insured people. But to the question about catastrophic or short term plan, so I don't quite remember all the rules about catastrophic, but short term plan is not age limited. It is limited in state law to 6 months. Federal rules have bounced up and down over the last 10 years on that. I think people are going to choose what works best for them financially, which I think is also what our members find attractive about this option, right? So if it doesn't make sense for somebody to buy coverage, perhaps they won't buy coverage and they'll just join a direct primary care clinic or pay cash or find some other way that works for them and their family. But I don't know necessarily that this is going to lead to an increase in the number of uninsured people. I'd have to think about that, but I don't think so.
Thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Lauren, I'm going to ask you to come up and ask some tax credit questions.
Good morning, honorable members of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, my name is Lauren O'Sullivan. I'm a senior financial analyst at the Department of Revenue Administration. And what I'm handing out right now is what we call a bill analysis, and that is for SB 635. And what makes that different than the fiscal note is where we add in our technical concerns. So generally, if I'm coming up to speak, it's to talk to any technical issues I see in the bill.
Give us a minute to get it out to everybody, so when we start talking, we can follow along.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
All right, it's all yours.
Okay. So I have a little bit to read, so bear with me. So the DRA notes that as drafted, the proposed credit would not be a cascading credit, which means that any credit used to reduce BET liability will reduce the amount of credit available against the business profits tax liability. If it is intended that the credit be utilized first with respect to the business enterprise tax, but not reduce the BET credit against the business profits tax, then the DRA suggests that language be added to the BET portion of the proposed legislation to the effect that the credit applied to the BET would still be considered taxes paid under Chapter 77E. It should be noted that if made cascading, the credit would further reduce business profits revenues such that the fiscal impact overall could exceed the intended maximum aggregate limit. The proposed legislation as drafted also contains eligibility provisions that are not clear to us. A prior version of the bill stated that a qualified taxpayer is one who has not provided employer health coverage, insurance coverage to employees within the last 5 years. That phrase is now removed, but the substitution of by an employer to a qualified account has not made the provision more clear and may have been intended to be included at the end of the new expanded definition of a qualified contribution, which seems to stop short. Assuming the replacement was accidental and the prior language is still intended, the proposed legislation goes on to require that the eligible contribution must be equal to or greater than the level of benefits provided in the previous benefit year, or the same or exceeds amount contributed per the covered individual towards the employer provided health insurance plan during the previous year. It is unclear to DRA based on these provisions how to interpret the previous benefit year, given that to be eligible, an employer must not have provided such benefits in the last 5 years. DRA believes the insertion of or exceeds may also be misplaced. The proposed legislation also refers to first year and second year which implicitly seems to refer to the first 2 years of the newly created QRSA, but suggests that reference may be more explicit to avoid all doubt. Further, the proposed legislation also envisions a process whereby taxpayers would receive credits simply by claiming it on their return, with DRA tracking and monitoring the levels of credits claimed and rejecting credits when the aggregate limit is reached. DRA has explored whether it could administer the proposed credit in this fashion and has determined that it cannot do so effectively, and I'll go through the reasons why. To begin, DRA's Revenue Information Management System, now known as RIMS, already dates and timestamps returns when they are received and processes returns in the order received. It would theoretically be possible for the RIM system to keep track of an aggregate amount and compare it to a line item on a return, but there are significant issues. For example, paper filings are generally considered received as of the date of the USPS postmark, but sometimes does not arrive until many days later. If electronically filed returns are processed utilizing all the remaining available credit, and then a paper return with an earlier receive date arrives, the taxpayer would not be able to receive the benefit of the credit unless all the previously processed returns were recalculated, which is not feasible. In addition, returns of all types can be in an error status and are not processed until the error is cleared, which requires manual intervention. Returns can go into this status due to missing or incorrect information, missing schedules, math errors, a scanning issue, and any number of other problems. So during the busiest seasons, returns may be in error status for 30 days or more through no fault of the taxpayer. When errors are cleared, returns are usually given the original receive date for processing purposes, so there is generally no harm to the taxpayer. So once you hit that cap and someone who's in error, we are not able to go back and recalculate. Additionally, if the aggregate limit is applied without any pre-review of claimed credits by DRA, there would be no way to apply the qualifying conditions except if, as and when, a return was audited. Any taxpayer can enter an amount on the credit line in question whether or not they actually qualified under the statute. Erroneous entries could also occur with respect to year 1 versus year 2 limitations. It is theoretically possible to develop data tracking and testing within our system that could identify some of those errors, but the cost to develop that logic would exceed the cost to simply create a separate process for administering the credit. And then there are several other issues where someone who receives a credit loses the credit, and then someone who's rejected could have been eligible that whole time won't get that benefit. So, and in order for us to administer this credit like we do other credits, we would need about $40,000 in order to accommodate the new credit in our system.
Great.
So,
I'll start off with a couple questions.
okay.
So part of this is, it looks like in your first section, the cascading effect, right? We
Yeah.
have to say that it's applied. I guess my question, reading it, it doesn't seem like the credits are carried forward. So if you're eligible for a credit in year 1, your maximum credit of 20 grand, but your liability is only 10 grand, there's no carry forward of the extra 10 into the next tax year. Is that the way you read the bill as well? There's no carry forward provisions within, I didn't see anything on carry forward credits. 3 years?
I have 3 years.
All right,
Yeah,
sorry,
3 years.
apologize. So you can carry the
Yeah.
tax credit forward for 3 years.
Yeah.
Your second one, the bill does the credits based on a first come first served basis is
Yeah, that's our
essentially
interpretation.
versus things like the R&D tax credit, where in a given year you aggregate all the requests for the credit and then you prorate the amount based on the maximum availability of the credit.
Yes, and
your
determine the
recommendation
eligibility.
is to do that type of traditional process instead for this tax credit.
Correct. And I go into those reasons why, just those timing issues you run into just in the day-to-day processing, especially in that March, April time period that's when our mail is most overwhelming.
I guess that was my.
Thank you. So I understand that the business claims the credit what does the employee get? Are they the ones getting $400 the first year? Is there any requirement for the business to pass that through? And how does that match up with the cost of health insurance for a family being like $26,000 a year?
I'll have to get back to you with that, with the answer to that question. From my understanding, I don't think that's the case, but I would rather
You don't think
get
it's
back
the
to you.
case that they're required to pass it through?
Yeah, I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Great. Senator Shardy, I recommend you have a chat with DRA and work through the issues that they've identified with the that's your acronym. NFIB, and work through the issues, again, dealing with the cascading issue, dealing with the first come, first serve problems, given technology limitations. Maybe work through them and see if you can find a path forward that would make sense and kind of align it similar to our other tax credits a little more. So we're not reinventing the wheel for DRA, would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, we'll get as soon as Lauren steps down, I'll let you jump up the mic again. Any further questions for DRA? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Senator Rosenwald's question about whether the credit would be for contributions to the account, so you would not receive a credit unless you made a contribution to that type of account. And the goal here, right, is this is a pretty modest credit. It's not intended to match the cost of insurance, right? And it's not intended to be a permanent subsidy for small employers to offer this type of benefit, right, to help their employees obtain individual market coverage or pay for qualified medical expenses elsewhere. So I just did want to clarify that and just offer, we did talk to the New Hampshire Insurance Department and the governor's office about this, and HID was very receptive and very favorable to the concept.
Is there, I couldn't find it in here, any requirement for how much money would be passed on to the employee? Or could the employer take the $400 credit and put nothing or put $1? They have to put the whole $400 in?
Correct. It would be a dollar for dollar like credit for contributions up to $400 in the first year and $200 in the second year. And again, recognizing.
And where is that specified?
Sorry, let me just find the language. I apologize.
It would be under page 1, line 22 through 24, I think.
Yeah, there we go. I'm sorry.
Right. Yep. So there has to be a contribution by the employer equal to the amount of the credit.
Credit against their state tax liability for qualified contributions up to $400 in the first year. And to some of the definitional, if that's a word, issues raised by the department, I do think that the amendment addresses some of those, and I will absolutely follow up with the department and work with them to make this workable however we need to.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Any further questions by the committee? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on Senate Bill 635. Again, you guys, we'll send out notices when we talk about when the next meeting is. Other than that, our business of the day, Grant.
I don't think you need to go to an executive session. This is just an update. Spoke with Senator Carson. There are 2 late bills that she will be assigning to Ways and Means. We've asked, we're going to get those signed off. One is yours, one is Senator Sullivan's. If you sign off as prime sponsors and don't wait for co-sponsors, we can get them into the system. We can get them into next week's calendar, and that'll give you time to hear them, notice them, and hear them on February 4th, if you so choose.
Great. I will waive all co-sponsors on my bill. I can't speak for Senator Sullivan. All right. With the business of the day being done, we are adjourned. As though